You're listening to Rise to Your Purpose, a personal and spiritual development podcast for female entrepreneurs with a mission.
We're your hosts, Brandie and Natalie.
Are you being a good steward with the resources, the gifts, the talents that God has given you here on earth? Today we dive into what does stewardship look like in the kingdom and how do we actually be good stewards of what God has given us, and what does the Bible say about stewardship? So Natalie Lawson and myself, Brandie Thomas, will dive into this discussion today, and we hope you enjoy.
All right. Hey, Purpose Partners. Welcome back to another episode of Rise to Your Purpose. I am Natalie, and I am here with my sister, Brandie. And today we're going to be talking to you about stewardship. And this has been something that we have really been diving into a lot recently. Some of you may have also been on Jim Bakker's Wealth with God, a 5-day masterclass that we shared with a lot of you. But if you didn't get to see that, we will say it was so many amazing kingdom principles, and you can still go and actually even join his group where he talks about, creating wealth with God and what does that really look like in those principles. But there are a few things that God has revealed to us and that we have learned through our different studies of really understanding what does it mean to create wealth? Like, is creating wealth good or bad? And how do we be the best stewards of our money? And if we're going to be women in business, we really should be profitable women. And when we are receiving those profits, then we need to be stewarding that money. And I had personally, especially recently, I just felt like God was really telling me for a long time that I need to get right with my money. Like I've never really been much of a budgeter, which I think is what put me in like a lack or scarcity mindset of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to have enough for this or that, or being afraid to spend too much money. And so I would go back and forth on just having this like inadequate feelings about money. And so it really takes, just like with anything, intentional study and asking the Lord and seeking the Lord on it. And then I really felt like, okay, the Lord has this path of wealth for me. And I think with just the path that's going on in our careers, I do believe wealth is going to be a part of our lives. And so if I want that to be a part of my life, though, I have to be trusted with that. And so it was really helping me to start to understand like how I can best manage my money. And one of the things that Jim Bakker said was that God is the master, right? He is who we are basically the money managers for. So it is his money. Anything that we have on this earth is a gift from God. It all belongs to him, but he has graciously allowed us to be his managers of it. So our time, our resources, our gifts, and our money, we are the managers of. And so we're going to kind of dive into the parable of the dishonest manager in Luke chapter 16. But I think we're all familiar with the verse that says, one who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. And one who's dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust you to the true riches, right? And to the kingdom of the wealth that we can create within the kingdom here on earth and in heaven. And so really, that's something I kind of look forward to, is like, I want God to know like what he's given me, that he entrusts me with, that I am faithful with. Think about it if you have a child, you're going to let them try something out, see how they do with that. And then maybe you'll give them something bigger to do. Kind of like getting a dog. Like, well, if they can take care of their room, then maybe you'll let them have a dog, and if they can take care of that. So that is, I think what this kind of stems to is, like, God is going to grow our capacity for being able to manage more. And so it's our responsibility to, become equipped and knowledgeable and gain wisdom in that by seeking his truths and biblical principles. So that's what we're going to dive into today. Brandie, do you want to kind of summarize or paraphrase the parable for us? And then we're going to share with you guys kind of 3 main principles for stewardship.
Right. Yeah. So this is Luke 16, 1 through 13. If you want to dive into this in your own Bible and highlight and do all the things. But essentially, the parable of the shrewd manager, Jesus is telling this parable to his disciples. And he's sharing that there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he calls him and he's like, what is this I hear about you? Why are you mismanaging the authority that I've given you? And saying, you cannot be my manager any longer. So the manager, trying to basically cover himself, protect himself before he loses his job, he goes to all of the people who are in debt to his master, and he's like, hey, tell me how much debt do you owe my master? And he's like, half that. He goes to 3 different people and he's like, okay, you owed 900 gallons of oil. Now I'm going to take your bill and make it 400. You owed 1,000 bushels of wheat. I'm going to take your bill and make it 800. And he was basically doing this to cover himself, protect himself, so that when he did lose his job, the people who were in debt to his master would then be in debt to him, and they would be able to like protect him or give him shelter or whatever he needed. He could basically use that as leverage. So the master, though, commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. So the people who operate in the world are going to be more shrewd with who they're dealing with versus people who are trying to operate in the kingdom. We're going to be more act righteously and wisely with our wealth. So the master says, I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. So basically, he was trying to protect himself so that then he could have dwellings outside once his job was let go. And then it goes on to say, whoever can be trusted with very little can be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will be also dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches, right? So this is God saying, if I can't trust you with just worldly wealth, how can I trust you with my heavenly riches that I have for you, the heavenly abundance that I want to give you? If you're not trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? So again, we are stewards of God's property, of God's resources, of God's gift, of God's money. And we want him to trust us with, the little he gives us so he can trust us with more and give us more property and more riches. So no one can serve 2 masters, but this is the key to everything. No one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So when we're talking about stewardship, whether it be your wealth, your talents, your resources, whatever responsibility that God has given you to steward, you have to ultimately, to be a good steward, to operate in kingdom principles and kingdom mindsets, make God your master. You have to die to your flesh. You have to surrender everything, your income, your family, your finances, your home, all the things that you think hold value in this life, in this world. You need to surrender them and lay them down at the foot of the cross and say, God, you are my true master. I do not have to ask permission from these things. I want to ask permission from you on how to steward the gifts that you have given me. And then it comes down to stewarding the resources that you've been given wisely and righteously. So thinking of yourself as God's manager who you've been entrusted with authority to use in God's name. Just like that manager, he was given authority to operate as if he was the master because he was trusted, and then he lost that trust, right? So being faithful in little, and God will see that and will honor that and will allow you to be faithful in much. So now you want to talk about how to properly steward.
Yeah. Well, I want to say too, so I think this goes like the verse 2 when he says, when I tell you, make friends for yourselves. And he dives in and talks about how the believers, what they should be doing, and be wise about the life to come. So Jesus is encouraging his followers to be generous with their wealth in this life, so that when they, when they're in the kingdom too, it's like they're being opened up to, hey, because I trusted you with much here, and because you were generous here with what I gave you and not just hoarding it all. And so seeking the Lord too, and all the things that you're doing when you're starting to grow your business, it can be really easy to just want to save all that money or use it for all your own things or for everything that you need or want, right? And it can be also really easy to, when you're starting to make the money, to want to spend it easily as well. And so we have to, and I love Jim Baker says this, like, you want to give, right? And you want to ask the Lord to develop within you a generous heart so that you can be giving. And like, that should be where we are going first, is giving first. I used to always like save first. Like I was like me first, and then what I had left, I would give, maybe invest. Right. But I love his philosophy on, we actually, as stewards of the Lord, and if we're laying everything down and we're trusting that the Lord, we should be giving first, investing, and then live on the rest, or do what you need to with the rest of that. And so when you're building your business, one of the things that we see though too is that as women start earning, they either don't have really a plan for that money. And so maybe it just sits in your account, or maybe it just goes directly into your bank and then it's just going out to like, the next thing or whatever. The other thing we see is people then turning around and buying more inventory and buying more products. And so if you're not in a company where you can earn free products, right, you need to decide, like, okay, do I need to be buying like all these products? Do I need to buy every new thing that comes out? If I can be active because I have so many customers, then do I need to be spending more every month on myself? So those are things that you're going to have to think about, because really we want to be in profit mode, right? And if you're taking what you're making and turning around and spending it again just on inventory, now we're really not building a business at all. So really you want to start thinking about how to be wise with that initial investment into your business, and where should that money go? And maybe you are in a place where it's like, that's the reason you joined, just because you just wanted a discount on the products and your family needs those products. So you need to determine, like, okay, and seek the Lord on that again, of like, okay, when this money's coming, how do I want to manage it? And what's going to help me to be responsible with that, so that you're not continuing to just allow yourself to break even or to be in debt. And then even thinking about like making sure you're even getting with the right people who can help you with taxes. I think there were years where I'm like, well, I just didn't want to like pay anybody, and I thought, well, I could just figure this out. And there's probably a lot of money I actually left on the table because I didn't equip myself with the knowledge by asking questions or studying myself, where I can figure out, where do I make those tax deductions? How is it best to actually steward my business? So how can I expect my business to grow if I'm not learning the foundations and the principles for truly building a business? And so you really want to take ownership over that, right? In a way, like I was telling my students in class, like, take ownership of your learning. So take ownership of your learning and investing into yourself and investing into what it is that you need to do, so that the Lord can continue to work in you and grow that capacity. Because again, he's entrusting you. He's given you authority to make decisions. And so can he trust you with those decisions? And so that would be after you know that you are the money manager and you understand that, and then you put that like hat of authority on, of like, okay, I'm going to steward this well. Then you want to develop that heart of generosity, and then start to create and prepare and make ways for yourself to, steward or use the money wisely. And so that would be things that I would really encourage you to do.
Yeah. So going back to what Natalie said about give, invest, live on the rest, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Like I hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't have enough money, so I'm not going to give anything or invest. I'm just going to like put this all back into, well, then God has nothing to work with. There's no seed for him to water, right? To pour abundance onto, if you're just taking everything and living on it. And so even if let's say you make $1, right? If you can only give 5 cents and then invest 5 cents, whether it's investing into your debt or investing into, another like crypto or something that allows you to have a return on your investment. Like it could be a stock market, or it could be investing in a startup, or investing whatever God calls you to invest it in, but do something that it's not just And maybe that is putting it in a savings account that actually gets interest, so that you're investing it into your savings, but you're accruing interest on that. So you're still giving, you're still investing in something, but then you can live on the majority of the rest. That is fine to do, regardless of whether you have $1 or $1,000. Like, the principle of stewardship still needs to be the same, regardless of how much you are earning. And so that's what we're trying to get you guys to understand is God is your master, and he is a good master. He's going to reward you, and he's a good father. He's going to take care of you, but you also have to have accountability and responsibility to steward what he has given you. So if he can trust you with just that $1, and you're still giving, and you're still investing, and you're still living on the rest, think about how much more he'd be willing to give you, because he's like, oh, I could trust her with just $1. Now I can trust her with $1 billion. And so thinking about that when you're stewarding your resources, stewarding your financial income that comes through your business, where's your heart at? And I've had this conversation with clients before where they're like, should I tithe this? I'm like, why wouldn't you tithe it? Like, it's a gift from God, so you should give back. You should give back to him. And then if he asks you to do something else, right? We should be asking God for permission on how to use the gifts and resources he's given us, instead of asking our resources for permission on how to use them, right? So stop being tied down to the world's definition of success and finances and worth and value, and putting value on things that really don't mean anything in the kingdom. It doesn't mean God's going to take them away from you, but it means your heart and your mind is on the one true master God, not on what's in your bank account or how big your house is or what car you're wearing. And I tell you from personal experience that this shift will change everything, and you'll start seeing God's like just abundant rain water the seeds when you give and you invest and live on the rest. Like, such a great principle.
And when we say give, like, yeah, like Frank said, we're not saying give it all away. Like, you don't need to be poor, or you don't need to be living paycheck to paycheck. But it's about being generous to what the Lord is giving you to the benefit of others. And it's always stems back to what's best for the kingdom of God and where he's calling you to place that money. And sometimes that is going to be for your family, right? So I think just realizing that we are to be generous with our wealth and use it for the benefit of others. And that it says the true riches here is referring to stewardship and responsibility in God's kingdom, along with all the accompanying heavenly rewards that we know and are promised to. And so I definitely think the Lord wants us to also enjoy our lives, enjoy our family, enjoy the gifts that he gives us, and not be afraid to spend our money on those things. But also in the same regards, like if you can spend money, right, on a vacation, we can also give to help further the kingdom, and where that is. So I just want to encourage you, because I have like a whole list now of things that the Lord has just put on my heart of where my money will and can go. And it's really exciting. And like Brayso, when you start to partner with the Lord even more in all aspects of your life, of your business, of your finances, of your relationships, you start to see his favor. You start to see just his goodness all over those things. And you start to, again, like she said, that freedom comes when you're not putting the standard up to worldly expectations or obligations or what other people say is successful, right? You get to see and find your success in God's eyes and where he's placed you in this season and where he's told you to be and what he's told you to do right here and now with what little or as much as you've been given. And then just continue to soak in him so that he can reveal his continued plan for you. And I love it that that's what we do here in Rise to Your Purpose and Purpose Partners through Victorious Entrepreneurs Rising, is we're really helping you partner with God in your faith and your business so that you can uncover his game plan for your life. And we can help equip you with the resources and the tools to do that and to grow as daughters of Christ, to step into your anointing and fuel the passions that he's given you. They're there for a reason. And so it's equipping you with the ability to be able to do that. So we hope you gained a lot out of today and just this short message of really diving into stewarding with the Lord. Rise to Your Purpose will be a weekly podcast. Our hope is to inspire and educate you on your entrepreneurial journey to help you fuel your passions, live your purpose, and build a business that works for you.
You can subscribe, rate, and comment on any podcast app. We'd love to hear from you. It makes us so happy to see you tuning in to the show. So if you're on Instagram, let us know what your favorite part of the show was by taking a screenshot of the episode you tuned into and tag us at Live Victorious on your story. Let us know what your favorite quote or takeaway from the episode was so that we can be inspired to keep creating content like this for you.
To learn more about us and get involved with our community of mission-driven entrepreneurs, join our Facebook group, Purpose Partners, where we partner together in faith and business. So until next time, build a business that works for you and stay in alignment with your mission.